Hi, my name is Rob McCrae, and I'm the designer of the Vassal module for the Great Battles of Julius Caesar Deluxe Edition. This, of course, is part of the Great Battles of History series designed by Richard Berg and Mark Herman, and soon to be released. So the purpose of this video is to look at the route point tracking board and how to use that. So let's go ahead and get the scenario open. I'm going to choose the Gergovia scenario. Note that I could come in as Caesarian, Roman, Senatorial, non-Roman, but for this purpose, we can just stay on observer. None of the different character sides or opponent sides have any different characteristics than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize the map here to get the Romans on there. So the way to bring up the route point tracker board is to click on the route point menu button. And this brings up the two boards here. It's actually two boards. It looks like they're one, but they're kind of glued together virtually here. On the left-hand side, you have the route point tracking card as appears in the physical board game. On the right-hand side, you have the scenario unit withdrawal levels, which appears only as a board for the Vassal module. And this basically exists as a place to place routed or eliminated units. In the physical board game, of course, you would have a place to put them on your side, maybe a bowl or whatever, but in Vassal, you have to create a place for those eliminated units to exist. So let me talk first about the normal route point tracking for most scenarios. So if you're familiar with Great Battles of History, you know that the standard rule system tabulates the route points for each unit that's eliminated, and you would just keep adding up those route points. So let's say you had 34 route points on the non-Roman side, or Gallic side in this case. Then you would just move the tile over here, and you can do that in the Vassal module. You can place the tile there and there, and that would show 34 route points. But I've built it so that the route point tracking is done automated if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and put those two counters back. So the next thing we need to look at is, this is what I call the generic scenario unit withdrawal level board that you would use for your standard route point tracking. But 6 of the scenarios use victory point rules, special victory point rules. And so I needed to create templates for those so it would calculate the victory points correctly. So to do that, you're going to click on the overlay and select the scenario. So we're playing Gergovia, so I'm going to select that overlay, and you see that it changed the template here. So this gives the text from the scenario rules on how to count the scores. I know it's kind of small there, but you can zoom in if you need to read those. And of course, you can also read them from your scenario rules. So let's look at the text up here at the top to kind of orient you on what it's showing here. So focusing just on this side. So this is the scenario units. And so just be aware that there's kind of an obverse relationship here. So even though this is where the Caesarian units go, as you eliminate or route Caesarian units, you're going to be increasing the Gallic victory points. And the same thing over here. As you increase Gallic units over here, you're going to increase Roman victory points. So if you've played the game before, you're familiar with the obverse relationship of that. If you're new to the game, it'll make sense really quick. So let's go ahead and pull out some units here. Let's say we've routed an infantry unit, an archer, and a cavalry unit. And I'll put a leader over here as well. So the way that you get the units over from here to over here, of course you can move them manually and place them over here. And once you've used the board a few times, you'll know where to place them if you want to do that manually. But the preferred way to do it would be to right click and select, it's usually the lowest options here on the right click menu on the unit. So send to non-Roman unit route pool, and it'll just automatically bounce to where it needs to go to be scored properly. Having said that, some units, and I'll show you here on this Roman unit here, have multiple options. So in this case, you can send to the Caesarean unit route pool, which would send it up to this area, or you can send it to the eliminated Gergovia, which is down here. It's invisible, but you don't have to worry about that because when you select either one, it's going to automatically send it to where it needs to go. So which one do you choose? It should be obvious to you once you're in the scenario. Like I say, if it's just a routed unit, then you would select the route pool. If the unit is eliminated on the board to be removed from the board, then you would select the eliminated unit. So again, that should be fairly obvious to you as you're playing the scenario. So let's go. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and score this guy. So you notice I moved him over here, but the route points didn't change or alter in any way yet. So the way that you do that is you hit the calculate senatorial non-Roman withdrawal points, and go get a cup of coffee. And about 4 seconds later, it's going to show the results. So we see we have 1 victory point and 1 victory point here. So these tiles are going to move automatically, and these numbers are going to increment automatically. And let's go ahead. Actually, I started to move them over manually, but I'm going to go ahead and send them over that way. And as you can see, they all go into their correct categories for leaders, infantry, and cavalry. So let's go ahead and do the calculation. And you will see that now we have 5 Roman victory points total, and it's mirrored here as well. So now let's look at the Romans. So let's bring out a legionary there, and a skirmisher, and let's get one of their leaders. Okay, so first the Legion, we're going to send him to the route pool. Actually, I'm going to bring out another Legion here, and I'm going to send him to the eliminated so you can see where that goes. Okay, actually I may have brought 2 out now. That's okay. So let's go ahead and calculate those guys. And you can see now there are 5 Roman victory points for the Gauls against the 5 Gallic units for the Romans. Let's go ahead and put the leader over here, and the skirmisher, and we'll calculate those in. And you can see that it added the points automatically, and it updated the tile here. So let's go back and look at the information up here, because there is a little bit more that you need to know. And again, these will vary from scenario to scenario, but the concept is still going to be the same. So I'll go over Gergovia in specific, and then, like I say, you'll be able to figure out from the other scenarios what you're supposed to do there as well. So for the Gallic side, they need 25 victory points to win. They currently have 8 Gallic victory points, which means they have 17 remaining for victory. If there was a Gallic unit in the Roman camp, the Roman camp is down here. If the Gauls were able to achieve that, then they would get 1 extra point. So the way that you do that is you can either do it one of 2 ways. I like to click on the number so you see it's highlighted. And then for the keyboard, I use the up or down arrow to increment. So I'm going to bring it up 1. And when it did that, you saw this number went up to 9, and this one went down to 16. There's also one other, this is a dual purpose. So the other purpose is for depleted units. So let's say the Romans had a depleted, I have to find it here, there we go, a depleted unit. So the white stripe shows you that this Roman legion, the 5th cohort of the 10th legion, is depleted. So then you would be able to, as the Gallic player, go over and increment 1 more. But let's say this guy became eliminated at some point. So we're going to eliminate him. We have to remember to go back and take off the depleted value now, recalculate it, and now you'll get the full 2 points for the eliminated unit. So that's pretty much it for how you score for Gergovia. I'm going to take off the overlay here for a minute. I'm going to remove these units. And so now I'm going to talk about regular route point scoring. So forget Gergovia for a minute, and we're going to go back to just normal route point tracking for the scenarios. So there's also the rule for the Aquilae, or Aquilae, however you pronounce it properly. So for the scenarios, the Caesarian side, if they captured an Aquilae, you would increment 1 for the capture of it. If it got recaptured, then you would increment that. You wouldn't change this. You would just leave this here, and it will automatically show the corrected value. And I may have misspoken before. This is for the Caesarian Aquilae, not ones that they captured from the other side. If the Caesarians had a captured Aquilae, they would have to report it here, and then if they recaptured it, they would get to claim those route points back, or not route points, but the Aquilae points back. So I think that covers everything. The only other thing is the game turn is all manual, so you can track that here. Game turn in Great Battle of Histories is not the most important thing to track, because you're basically going to go one side to the other based on the initiative rating until one side gains victory, and that will all be included within the battle day. So that's kind of how that's tracked. So again, I hope that this is a useful feature for everybody. Again, like I said, if you want to just go traditional and move the tiles yourself, knock yourself out, feel free to do that. But I think having the automated tracker in here is it's just kind of a a useful feature. Certainly something to kind of measure, your uh, counting with what the automatic tracker does to see if there's a variance there between what you thought you had points wise and what the system thinks you have point wise. And so I hope everybody gives us a look and gives me some feedback. I'm sure that there will be some updates to the tracking system over time. But for the most part, I think I have it worked out. But there's always something that can be updated and improved. So until next time, thanks for watching this and enjoy the game.